Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Yang saya hormati, para tamu undangan, narasumber, serta seluruh peserta yang berbahagia. Puji syukur, marilah kita panjatkan kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Esa. Karena berkat rahmat-Nya, kita dapat berkumpul dalam kegiatan kuliah umum pada siang hari ini dalam keadaan sehat dan penuh semangat. Perkenalkan, saya Ulana Emilia selaku Master of Ceremony yang akan memandu kegiatan pada hari ini. Hadirin yang saya hormati, pada kesempatan yang berbahagia ini, kita akan mengikuti kuliah umum dengan tema Carbon Management for Business, Ensuring Credible Action Through Validation and Verification Body. Tema ini menjadi sangat relevan saat ini di tengah meningkatnya tuntutan global terhadap peran dunia usaha dalam menghadapi perubahan iklim dan memastikan keberlanjutan lingkungan. Yang kami hormati, Bapak Gayan Ranasinghe selaku Managing Director Control Union Indonesia. Yang kami hormati, Bapak Arif Pamungkas selaku Business Developer Management, serta our Honorable Speaker, Mr. Gayan Ranasinghe. Dan yang kami hormati pula seluruh dosen serta peserta yang telah hadir pada siang hari ini. Sebelumnya, saya ingin mengundang Bapak Hermudananto selaku Ketua Career Development Center Fakultas Kehutanan Universitas Gadjah Mada untuk bisa memberikan sambutan. Kepada Bapak Hermu, waktu dan tempat saya haturkan.
Oke, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang semuanya. Good afternoon. Okay, good afternoon. And Honorable Mr. Gayan Ranasinghe. Am I correct? Okay, fine. And yang terhormat Pak Arif Pamungkas mungkin masih di luar, masih sibuk. And the Honorable Mr. Gayan Ranasinghe. As a scheme manager and of assurance services, and also he is the key person in here will be give some lecture to us. And yang saya hormati juga Mas Muhammad Rifki ya, ini sahabat gitu, sahabat mempertemukan antara FKT UGM dengan Control Union. Puji syukur kehadirat Allah Subhanahu wa taala yang telah memberikan rahmat dan hidayahnya sehingga kita semua dapat berkumpul di acara guest lecture about carbon validation and verification. I think it's really hot topic right now, isn't it, Mr. Gayan? I think the students here are really waiting for your lecture and want to hear directly from you about the current issue about the carbon, climate change, and everything, so on and so forth. Semoga acara ini diselenggarakan oleh CGC Forestry UGM yang mana bulan ini kita akan mengadakan nanti Spill Ticket Anniversary. So for your information, CGC Career Development Center Forestry UGM, we will have some anniversary this month, 21st April. So maybe next 2 weeks. So we will have another like ceremonial and some activities. I think it's a good opportunity for us to share opportunity to our students ya. Jadi alhamdulillah sudah hampir 1 tahun kita CGC memberikan kesempatan opportunity sehingga teman-teman mahasiswanya dapat mendapatkan informasi tidak hanya dari bangku perkuliahan di kelas, tapi juga langsung dari expertnya, dari eksternal. Beliau-beliau ini sudah malang melintang di dunia persertifikasian. Tidak hanya sertifikasi, nanti mungkin ada isu-isu yang lebih detail lagi yang mau disampaikan, termasuk ada peluang atau opportunity nanti after setelah teman-teman graduation atau lulus dari sini, siapa tahu ada kesempatan bekerja di lembaga seperti Control Union. Saya pikir sangat memungkinkan selama itu qualified gitu ya. Acara hari ini kami berharap akan banyak diskusi, terutama dari teman-teman mahasiswa yang hadir di sini, termasuk ada beberapa dosen, ada Bu Anissa juga di belakang, ada Pak Heri juga. Saya pikir harapannya ini sebagai wadah kita buat initial activity, karena ini adalah aktivitas kita yang pertama, hasil kolaborasi antara Fakultas Kehutanan dan Control Union, di mana kami tadi pagi baru signing MOU. Jadi teman-teman nanti ada kesempatan juga untuk banyak peluang lah, bisa internship, mungkin bisa magang, penelitian, ataupun mungkin nanti pascanya bisa bekerja di sana. Saya pikir banyak hal lah, banyak hal yang bisa kita lakukan. Itu saja mungkin pengantar. Sekali lagi thank you for your support to our faculty, especially to our students. And I hope saya berharap kegiatan ini dapat terus dilanjutkan ke depannya, dan hari ini semoga dapat lebih produktif discussion and sharing dan dapat memberikan inspirasi. Itu saja, semoga bermanfaat. Selamat belajar. Saya tutup. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Bapak Hermudananto. Baik hadirin sekalian, pada era saat ini, pengelolaan karbon bukan hanya lagi sekedar pilihan saja, melainkan sebuah keharusan bagi setiap pelaku bisnis. Dan tidak hanya tentang pengurangan emisi, tetapi juga bagaimana memastikan setiap langkah yang diambil dapat dipertanggungjawabkan secara kredibel melalui proses validasi dan verifikasi yang tepat. Untuk itulah, pada hari ini kita sangat beruntung dapat menghadirkan narasumber yang memiliki banyak pengalaman dan keahlian yang luar biasa dan tentunya sangat mendalam di bidang tersebut. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's now my great honor to invite our distinguished speaker. But before that, there's introduction videos prepared by Control Union team, and please enjoy the presentation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, I would like to invite our distinguished speaker today, Mr. Gayan Ranasinghe. He is an experienced greenhouse gas auditor and verifier with over 10 years of expertise in sustainability, carbon accounting, and climate risk management. He has been actively involved in international verification standard, carbon trading frameworks, and guiding organizations toward a low carbon future. So without further ado, Mr. Gayan, please join me in welcoming. Everyone, please give the deepest applause to Mr. Gayan Ranasinghe. So Mr. Gayan, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the warm welcome to your university. And I think you know about the topic, right? So I don't know your local language, so I have to speak in English. I'm really sorry if you don't understand. There could be some technical aspects, the technical things that you cannot understand. If you don't understand, raise your hand, and then we can discuss it in simple terms, and then we can go forward, right? So as you see, the topic is carbon management for businesses, right? So I'm really happy to see all these young minds. So you are the future leaders of the industries, maybe in Indonesia, maybe beyond the border, sometimes Malaysia, maybe India, right? So if you grab what we are discussing today, I mean, basically, we are looking at greenhouse gas accounting and reporting. So that's a part of sustainability reporting. Sustainability is a wider topic. So it has social, economic, and environment. Social sustainability, economic sustainability, and environment sustainability. So what do you mean by sustainability? Can somebody tell me what is sustainability? Simply,
Okay, what's the definition of sustainability? If someone know the answer, please raise your hand.
okay, right. So then let's go forward. The sustainability is something like this. Yes. All right. Okay. So sustainability is something like this. So meeting the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their needs. So that is the simple definition. So it has a kind of a futuristic view. So now we should survive right now. And also we need to look at our future generation. We need to ensure that we are saving something, we are preserving something for the future generation. So that is the core meaning of the sustainability. And greenhouse gas accounting and reporting is part of that broader sustainability philosophy or framework. Next slide. Right, so we are doing this session with 6 learning objectives. The first objective is so at the end of this session, you will be able to explain the significance of carbon management in addressing climate change. So that is the first objective. And also you'll be able to define and differentiate the organization level carbon footprint accounting. So what is scope 1 emission, what is scope 2 emission, and what is scope 3 emission. So those are the 3 categories that we are considering in the operational level emission accounting. So we will explain them later. And then understand key carbon measurements and reporting frameworks. So I think you have heard of different standards relating to forest management. So there are a key standard FSC and PEFC. You must be familiar with these standards. So like that, so we have some dedicated standards for carbon accounting and reporting, right? So we will discuss those standards as well. And then identify practical strategies for reducing greenhouse gas emission. So let's say that we have quantified our emission. So let's say that that emission is X, right? So how do we bring down that X, right? How do we reduce that X emission to 0? So we should have a robust, concrete policy framework, roadmap, management plan to bring it 0, right? And then evaluate the role of carbon markets. The carbon market is something different from what we discussed earlier. So that is that can generate a commodity. So it's like a product in a supermarket. So you can go to the supermarket and you can purchase a packet of noodles, right? So like that, we can generate and certify a carbon credit and we can sell it in a carbon credit exchange. So that has a liquidity. Liquidity means it has a monetary value. So it can be transacted between 2 parties, right? So that will be discussed. And then understand the importance of third-party verification. So we are representing one of the leading TIC certification company. TIC means testing, inspection, and certification. So that is the domain we are operating in. So this today's session basically coming under certification. Under TIC, at the end of this term, we have certification. So carbon verification is coming under certification. So those are the key objectives set for this training program. Next slide. Right. So what do you see here? This should be readable and understandable. So you can see a lady holding a placard. It says that the climate is changing. Why aren't we? Should the climate be changed? Should the climate be changed? It should change. Simply. There is nothing remain constant. in the nature. Everything is changing. Everything should have that evolution. So without that evolution, nothing can survive on the earth. Even you. You were born like a baby, right? Maybe 3 or 5 kilograms, right? When you're born, right? Now, maybe you have 50, 40 kilograms, right? So mass has increased. So like that, everything in the nature, on the earth, and the universe is changing. The climate should change, but the rate or the pace of this changing matters. So if it is changing in a shorter time scale or limited, let's say that within 10 years, 20 years, what happens? Can we adapt to that drastic change? No. So that is the problem. The climate is now changing drastically, sometimes beyond our imagination, beyond our expectation. So that's why it has become a problem. So then under that, we have another text. Why can't we change? So who has caused this drastic climate change? Who is responsible for this? So there are natural factors, there are anthropogenic factors. Anthropogenic means human factors. What are the natural factors that is driving climate change? You should have studied all of this at college education. So now you are at the universal level. The volcanoes. So when the volcanoes are erupting, I think in Sri Lanka we don't have volcanoes, right? Even we haven't seen any volcano. So you are blessed to see a volcano, right? So you have some volcanoes. So when volcanoes are erupting, so there are greenhouse gases emitting from the mouth of the volcano. So that is the natural source. And then paddy cultivation. Paddy cultivation, so that is one of your major crop, right? In Sri Lanka, paddy. So what is in Indonesian language, paddy? Right. So that is also one thing, one activity, human activity emitting greenhouse gas. So now you know the difference between human and natural factors. And also wetlands. So you have different wetlands, right? The marshlands. So when it comes to the wetlands, so you know that in the rainy season they are covered with water. So there are organic contents covered with water. So there is an anoxic environment under the water. So that can cause generation of methane, right? So all these are going to be natural activities that are emitting greenhouse gas, and also human activities. So if you have your own vehicle, so if you are using public transport, if you are generating electricity, so all these activities are emitting what? Greenhouse gases. Now there is a difference. What is the difference between pollutants and greenhouse gases? We have pollutants, right? So under the environmental category, you know that we have a broader framework, ESG. E is environment, S is social, G is governance. So under governance, we have economic performance as well. So under the E, we have different, as I discussed earlier. So we have energy, water, waste, biodiversity, ozone, right? So like that, we have different topics. So then, again, air pollution, right? Air pollution. So now there is a difference between greenhouse gas and air pollutants. Under air pollutants, we have, what do we have? Carbon monoxide, not carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and ozone, NOx, SOx, PM, 10 and 2.5. So those are the air pollutants controlled in Sri Lanka, basically, right? I don't know what's the scope of Indonesia. So these are air pollutants. The greenhouse gases are a bit different from these air pollutants, right? So this is the different subject. Under greenhouse gas, we have CO2, CH4, N2O, HFC, PFC, NF3, SF6. Sulfur hexafluoride, nitrogen trifluoride, perfluorocarbon, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, hydrofluorocarbon. Now, can you understand the difference between air pollution and greenhouse gases? So today, our scope is, this is not our scope. So this is our scope, right? So maybe in the next session, you can cover the air pollution, right? Okay, next slide. Right, so what do you see here? You can see some disasters, right? So let's be quick, right? So wildfires and floods, droughts, and cyclones. So what is now if you look at these disasters, the basically frequency and intensity of the disasters, what has happened in the last 50 years? So now we are in 2026. So if you look back, if you go back to maybe 1980, compared with 1980, what has happened? The frequency of disasters has increased. Yes, correct. And intensity, the magnitude of the disasters, so that has also increased. Yes, correct. So what is the major cause for that? What is the major physical phenomenon that is driving the intensity and frequency of these disasters? Climate change. The climate change is the dominant factor. So other than that, we have different physical factors, right? Some are beyond our control. Maybe so there could be some impacts from the universe, right? So which are not controllable. The climate change is playing a key role. Next slide. Right. So then, so what kind of impact climate change has on the food security? So when it comes to food security, we have 4 pillars to be considered: availability, access, stability, and utilization. So if the global warming keeps increasing, what happens to our food system? So we have to, in Indonesia, you have more than 300 million, right? I don't know the exact number, but it should be more than 300 millions. So we have to feed all of this population, right? So we cannot keep anyone hungry, right? So we have to feed them. So if this keeps happening, what happens to the food system? It will be at a risk, right? Food security. So that is also one thing. So one risk we can expect from the climate change. The next slide. And then human health. So that has a huge impact. The global warming, the climate change has a direct impact on the human health. So basically, your the mental health, physical health, and also community health. You can see the points, right, given here. So it has a direct impact. There are a lot of researchers. You can go to the Science Direct, maybe Google Scholar. You can find there are a lot of research done for this, and they have proven it. Right. The next slide. Right. So how does it happen? So now you know what is climate change, right? So now you know the definition. How does it happen? Right. So here you can see 3 events: greenhouse gas effect, global warming, and climate change. So what is how the climate change is driven? The climate is change because of the global warming. The global warming is caused by greenhouse gas effect. So that is the root cause. So if you look at this entire catastrophic phenomenon, the root cause is greenhouse gas effect. Next slide. Right. So here you can see the you can try to understand. So there are 2 phenomena given in the slide: the natural greenhouse gas effect, and the other one is human-induced greenhouse gas effect. So what is the difference between the natural greenhouse gas effect and human-induced greenhouse gas effect, as you understand? So let's try to do this interactively, right? So you are the next leaders, right? So when you are running your business, when you are working for one of your employers, maybe in the next 5 years, you should have, sufficient knowledge of the sustainability. Basically, carbon accounting, life cycle assessment, biodiversity assessment. So that's why we organize this public lecture. So what is the difference? How do you explain? The natural, right, I have one more question. So can we survive without greenhouse gas effect? What will happen to the earth without greenhouse gas effect? Let's say that there is no greenhouse gas effect. What will happen to the organism on the earth? Will they survive? Now, for the college modules, right? So this is our earth, right? So what is the diameter of earth? Can anyone tell me? So it is around 12,500 kilometers, right? Right. So for the top of the earth crust, we have different layers in the atmosphere. We call this as the first layer is troposphere. Right? The second layer is, what is the second layer? Stratosphere, right? So where do we have ozone layer? So now, so here we have mesosphere, thermosphere, exosphere. We don't need to consider all of these spheres. So let's focus on the troposphere and stratosphere. So where we can find the ozone layer. So here you can find the ozone layer, right? So that is in the stratosphere. So then where global warming is happening? Now this is one sphere, right? So here we have ozone layer. So where does the global warming happen? Here, right? So I use different symbol, right? So this is the zone the global warming is happening in the earth. The altitude is around 10 to 12 kilometers from the earth. Let's say mean sea level. Right. So in the natural greenhouse gas effect, what happens is that, so there is a natural concentration in the atmosphere. So that is causing greenhouse gas effect that can maintain the kind of an optimal temperature on the earth, right? So in the human enhanced greenhouse gas effect, what happens is that we are excessively emitting greenhouse gases exceeding the natural concentration. So what we are doing is that we are extracting fossil fuel. So our economy is mainly driven by fossil fuels. In any country, even in Middle East, Asia, Europe, America, fossil fuel is a part of the dominant part of the economy. We keep extracting fossil fuel from the earth, and we continue to burn. So that has caused human enhanced greenhouse gas effect. So that is the difference between the natural greenhouse gas effect and human enhanced greenhouse gas effect. The greenhouse gas effect is caused by infrared radiation. So under the electromagnetic spectrum, we have different kinds of waves. Can you tell me 3 waves in the electromagnetic spectrum? Gamma rays, X-ray, ultraviolet. Yes? Infrared, yes. Infrared is part of that electromagnetic spectrum. The infrared, it is the infrared radiation that is causing greenhouse gas effect. The other radiations are not playing a critical role for greenhouse gas effect. Any question? regarding what we have covered so far? So we have Q&A session at the end of the lecture, but I think better getting all the questions during the session. So then we can go forward with more clarity. Right. Okay, good. Next slide. Right. So then how do you address this issue? Now we have understanding about this physical phenomenon. We know that what are the drivers of greenhouse gas effect and the global warming and climate change, and how do you control it? So can you stop this? What we can do? So there are two words. We can control this or we can stop this. What we can do? Yes, we can control this to a certain level. We cannot stop this. This will never stop. Right? This is happening because in the last 5-6 centuries we have continued to emit greenhouse gases. They are still existing in the atmosphere, causing greenhouse gas effect. So let's say that we are shutting down all the operations in Indonesia as well as in the other rest of the world. And now we are expecting, or we are looking what's going to happen. So does it stop global warming? No. The greenhouse gases has an atmospheric lifetime. Methane, it has 12 years lifetime. The carbon dioxide is more than 100. So they are retaining in the atmosphere, warming the planet. Right? So if we stop all our operation today, it does not stop the greenhouse gas effect. But now you know the philosophy of sustainability. What is sustainability? Now I'm asking why we should take initiatives, measures to reduce, control greenhouse gases. Because of the sustainability. Sustainability is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their needs. All right. So thinking about the future generation, we should stop or we should control emitting greenhouse gases. So that is the core philosophy of this initiative, basically greenhouse gas management. Right? We are controlling it to a certain level. So that will help our future generation to survive for a while. I'm not saying that maybe 5-6 centuries, maybe they can survive for a while. We don't know what happens in the next 2-3 centuries. That is beyond our control. Right. Anyway, so if we can measure something, so let's say that we know our emission. So you have your own company. So in maybe next year you are passing out from the university and you are working for a company. So let's say that top, let's say food and beverage manufacturing. Right. Now you want to contribute to climate action. What you can do? Where you should start from? Can you control or mitigate greenhouse gas emission without knowing the baseline? Without knowing where we are right now, can we reduce greenhouse gases? No. All right. So then what should be the first step? Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. So first we have to measure our emission. So let's say that that's why I have put this saying, what gets measured gets managed. Now let's say that your university needs to control your emission, maybe reduce emission. So let's say that now yes, so that is one initiative. Exactly, that is one initiative. So that will help the country, overall, the country to reduce your emission. So this is a part of the survival. That's why I told you, you don't take it in an extreme end, right? So we are trying to control this. That's why I told you, we cannot stop this. We are trying to control this. Even by taking a smaller step, you are contributing to the climate action, right? Okay, so then if we can measure something, we can manage, right? So that's the core requirement. Next slide. Right. So let's say that we are measuring our emission. We can call it as carbon footprint. So you are measuring your individual emissions for the year 2025. So let's say that you have your own diary and you have written all the let's say schedule and activities you have had in the last year. By looking at this records, you are calculating emission for the past year. That is your individual level carbon footprint. So any individual can calculate their carbon footprint by using standard methodologies. I will tell you later. And if you can master in this domain, so let's say that this is going to be your initial training, right? So in the next 2-3 years, you can have more trainings in this domain. Then you can become a consultant, right? Then you can become a freelancer, right? You can support the giants companies, the emitting high amount of greenhouse gases to assess their baseline, reduce their emission, finally become carbon neutral or net zero, right? So this is going to be a starting point, right? So next 2-3 years, you have to do kind of a small investment. So you can have another course for greenhouse gas accounting and reporting. Here I'm giving a small introduction, right? So within 2 hours, we cannot cover all the technical aspects relating to this carbon accounting and reporting. I'm just trying to give you an overview, right? Okay. So here, when we are defining carbon footprint account, so there should be 2 things we need to look at. One is spatial boundary. Spatial boundary means the entities or the business unit that we are considering. The other one is temporal boundary. The temporal boundary means the time period that we are considering. So that should be specified before counting carbon footprint. So as an individual, as a university, you can account greenhouse gas emissions for the last year. So in that case, you can consider your faculty and also maybe, so as I remember, there is more than 20 faculties, right, in your university. So you can consider 1 faculty, 2 faculty, or 5 faculty, depending on the scope. That is your spatial boundary. The number of business units or number of departments, the number of facilities, entities. The temporal unit is the last year, maybe full year, 12 months period, starting from January 1st, 2025 to 31st December 2025. Maybe 6 months. So that's how we do it. Right? So the temporal and spatial boundaries are important. So then you can quantify your greenhouse gas emission. The total amount of greenhouse gas emission emitted by an individual, business, or organization, country can be considered as the carbon footprint. So that is the standard definition. So when we are accounting carbon footprint, we need to look at the spatial boundary and the temporal boundary. So keep in mind these things. You don't need to take all of this, take note of everything. Just try to feed everything into the head, right? Okay, next slide. Right. So now you know about that ESG framework, environmental, social, and governance. So here you can see different impact categories. What do you see here? The climate change is the first impact category. Now you have been doing this, you have been studying the forestry or forest management for quite a long time. So when you are studying, so you might have identified these impact categories, right? So climate change is only one impact category under environment. So we have acidification, eutrophication, what else? Biodiversity. Sometimes when it comes to life cycle assessment, we need to look at all of these impact categories. But here we are looking at only climate change. We are not looking at other impacts. When you are manufacturing a product, yes, there could be a carbon emission. In addition to that, there could be impacts on the other aspects, biodiversity. So let's say that you are sourcing material from a forest, right? So by using that material, you are manufacturing a food, right? So food item. For that manufacturing process, there is a carbon emission. And when you are sourcing that material from the forest, what happens to the biodiversity? So what is biodiversity? Species diversity, genetic diversity. There are three components under biodiversity: genetic diversity, species diversity, ecosystem diversity. Right. So those are the three things we need to look at under biodiversity. So now you can understand that today we are looking at only a limited scope under the broader environmental pillar. So you can master the other areas as well in time to come. Next slide. Okay, so we discussed all of these things. These are the greenhouse gases we need to account for in our greenhouse gas inventories. Any question? So what about water vapor? Water vapor. Now here you are seeing 7 greenhouse gases. Didn't you think that there is an impact from the water vapor? Doesn't it have an impact on the global warming? Yes. So that is the most potent gas for the compound, but it is not accounted. Why it is not accounted in inventories? Because it is a part of the natural cycle. We cannot exactly account the impacts of the water vapor. So as it is, since it is a part of the natural cycle, the natural environment, so it has been excluded from the scope. At the moment, we are accounting emission only for these 7 greenhouse gases. Right? Got it clear? Right. Next slide. Okay, so these are the levels we can consider in accounting emissions. What are the levels? Can somebody tell me? So you can look at the slide and then you can tell me what are the levels. As an individual, can you account your emission? Can you account for your greenhouse gas emission? Yes. So that is the hierarchy. You can start from the individual level and then you can go for subnational level, national level, regional level, and global level. So here you can see some the regulatory frameworks relating to these levels. So when it comes to global level, we have Paris Agreement driving the global climate agenda, which was adopted in 2015 in the Paris, right? Correct. And then EU Green Deal. So EU Green Deal is specifically designed for EU, for the countries operating under European Union. That is not applicable to, directly applicable to other continents, Asia, Europe. So that is not applicable to other continents. And then we have national determined contribution. Do you know about it? Have you heard of NDC? You have? Yes, exactly. So for the Paris Agreement, 190 countries have signed, right? So there are 996 companies as signatories for the Paris Agreement, right? Indonesia is also one country signed for the Paris Agreement. So under the Paris Agreement, we have a mandate to control the national level greenhouse gas emission. For controlling this national level greenhouse gas emission, we have NDC, that is a policy framework, the national level policy framework. So that drives national level climate action. So that can coordinate all the line ministries in a particular country. And then they are formulating the national agenda or the roadmap or emission management plan, and then drive the climate action with the support of government and private stakeholders, right? Got it? Then subnational, the global protocol for community scale GHG emission inventories. So you can find all of this information from the web. You can take a picture from your phone and just search in Google. You can find all of these treaties and other standards. And then climate neutral citizen. So that is an individual level certification program. Sorry, citizen is a kind of an individual level disclosure framework. So that can be considered as a certification program. So if you know your personal level emission, you can quantify, you can put that into a statement, and you can submit it to a certification body, and then you can get it verified. Then you can become a climate conscious person. And once the emission is offset, you can become climate neutral or citizen. You can quantify your emission, and then you can offset your emission. The amount that you have emitted can be offset by carbon credits. So we have another section for that. And then you can become climate neutral citizen. So this is the hierarchy. So I have missed one thing in this hierarchy. What I have missed in this diagram? Can anybody tell me? Now we have individual, subnational, national, regional, global. What I have missed here? Corporate level. It's not there. Right? The corporate level, the emission accounting is very important. That is the objective of this session, not the individual level or country level emission accounting and reporting. So it will take 5-6 days to cover country level emission accounting. So there is a, the lengthy methodologies there are lengthy methodologies for accounting country level emission, but for corporate level, it's not that complex. So we can cover all of aspects within one day, basically accounting frameworks, right? So that is also very important. I have missed that part in this diagram, so you can add it, right? The corporate level. Okay, next slide. Right, here you can see the concentration of greenhouse gases, how it has changed over the time, the carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide. So what is the concentration at the moment? So now we're in 2026. So according to your prediction, so what will be the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere by 2020, 2025? Now keep in mind, we are measuring carbon dioxide concentration in parts per million. Parts per million. So that is the standard unit. Methane and nitrous oxide, we are measuring in terms of parts per billion. CO2 parts per million. N2 and CH4 parts per billion. So that is the standard unit. Now you can read the concentration. Now, when it comes to this graph, you can see carbon dioxide concentration is more than you should be able to read the numbers. Yes, correct. Right? And also you can look at the other concentrations as well. And in the right side, there is another graph showing the change of temperature over the time. So you can see gradually the carbon dioxide concentration is increasing. So on par with that, the average temperature is going up. So that is what is indicated in this graph. Then this is a kind of a proof for the global warming. It's happening. It's not something fake. It's happening. The Trump says that it is fake, right? But it is happening. It's a part of the reality. The next slide. Okay, so this is the global greenhouse gas emissions, the geography of the emission. Who is the highest emitter? The biggest emitter in the world? Is it Indonesia? No. So who is the China. So their contribution is around 30% of the total emission. Right? Your emission is around 3.5 out of the total global emission. According to the latest reports, I went through one of the reports published by UNDP. So according to that report, it is around 3.5 out of the total emission. So globally, we have total emission around 55 billion tons CO2 equivalent. So that is the standard unit we use. So we are expressing greenhouse gas emissions in terms of a mass, right? So we are expressing it as a mass. We are declaring it as tons CO2 equivalent. So this is a standard unit. So we have 55 billion. annually. So that is our global greenhouse gas emission. So out of this emission, nearly 3.5% is coming from Indonesia. Now you can imagine how much of your emission is, right? So that's also massive, considerable amount compared with other smaller countries. In Sri Lanka, we don't have that much of emission, right? And also you can see other countries, how they are contributing to global greenhouse gas emission, India, Russia, and also USA, right? The next slide. And here you can see the sector level greenhouse gas emissions for electricity and heat. There is a high energy demand. You can see the highest emission is coming from globally from the electricity and heat. Right, that is for your information. Next slide. Right, here you can see per capita emission. So how do we calculate per capita emission, per capita revenue, per capita, the other indexes? So we are dividing. So when it comes to emission, we are dividing total emission here population. So that's how we are calculating per capita emission. So we see the highest emission is coming from Middle East, and also we have some significant emission from China, USA. And there are some smaller countries, they don't have much higher per capita emission. So that is also for your information. Next slide. And why carbon management matters today. So we will quickly go through these slides, why we should account for our greenhouse gas emissions. Next slide. Right. So one thing is national determined contribution. Now you know about it. So can the national government do it alone? So let's say that you have 50,000 industries across Indonesia. Now government wants to reduce their emission. So here you can see the targets, right? So how much of emission we should reduce as a country? So we have two types of targets, unconditional and conditional. According to the enhanced NDC targets submitted by 2020, submitted in 2022. So recently you submitted another report. Yeah, that is in 2025. Yeah, September. Yes. So I could not find that latest report. You may download that report from the Minister of Environment website. So that should be available there. And then you can find the latest targets for your country. So this is a target submitted in 2022. You can see out of your total emission, 31% should be reduced based on unconditional scenario, and 43% based on conditional scenario. So what is the difference between conditional and unconditional? Unconditional means we have to use government funds to reduce that emission. So there is no any excuse. So we have to use consolidated funds. The official term for it, consolidated funds of the government, should be utilized to bring that emission down. Conditional means we can use what we can use? Private financing. So we can approach, the government can approach and leverage financing from the private sector, and they can co-develop the projects, and then they can bring down the emission, national level emission. So that is called as conditional. For any country, we have these kinds of targets, conditional and unconditional. Even Sri Lanka, we have conditional and unconditional targets. Now government is working on these two scenarios. Right. So that is one reason we should work on the carbon management matters, right? The next slide. Right. The other one is regulatory directions coming from the national laws. So now we have, I think you have heard of those couple of standard IFRS, international financial reporting standard, IFRS S1 and S2. IFRS S1 and S2. Now, most of the countries in the region, they have adopted this IFRS, the financial reporting standard. So you can find more information from internet. IFRS S1, IFRS S2. IFRS S1 is for sustainability related risk and opportunities. We call it as SRROs, right? Sustainability related risk and opportunities. So if there is any listed company in Indonesia, So what is the stock exchange? The official, the entity name of stock exchange? Are right. So they will soon work on this, right? So they will issue these standards. I don't know the latest the version of the standard, but anyway, you can go to their website and you can check the latest update on the standard. But anyway, when this is adopted by a country, it becomes so there will be a prefix before the IFRS. Maybe this will be Indonesian financial reporting standard. So this will be, yes, I will come here, right? As it is international, right? Indonesian financial reporting standard. In Sri Lanka, we have SLFRS, Sri Lanka financial reporting standard S1 and S2. So that's how it works. In Maldives, we have Maldives financial reporting standard. Indonesia has already, sorry, Maldives has already adopted the standard. But anyway, so if your basically if countries adopting this standard, so there is a regulation, there is a regulatory pressure from this standard. Under S1, the listed companies needs to account for sustainability, report risk and opportunities. Under S2, climate related risk and opportunities. So when they are working on this climate related risk and opportunities, definitely they have to assess the baseline. So there is no any excuse. We have to do the carbon accounting for our corporate business and organization. Right? That is something basically coming from the national laws. The next slide. And then global and regional regulatory regulations. One example is EU Green Deal. So other than that, there are some regulations in other continents as well, the countries as well. European Green Deal is one of the best example I can show you. So that was adopted in European Union in 2019, right? The end goal is, what is the end goal of this EU Green Deal? So this is very important when you are going into interviews, basically for the sustainability related positions. So they might ask about these things, right? So in the interview, so what are the latest regulations that we need to comply with? So then you should have good understanding about this, the regional regulations, right? The objective of this EU Green Deal is to basically the push entire European Union towards the climate neutrality goals. So let's say that now European Union's emission is 5 million tons CO2 equivalent, right? By 2050, they need to make it 0. So that is the target, net zero target. So they have their own accounting procedures, principles, tools. By using these tools, they have calculated their baseline and they are aiming to become carbon neutral and net zero by 2050. So that is the objective of European Green Deal. How does impact on Indonesia? Now let's say that you are working for a company, for a listed company in 2028, right? Once you are passed out from the university, you will start working for a company. So that will be in 2028. How does it will, how will it come to you? So let's say that you are exporting your products to Europe. Now the companies in Europe needs to be complied with this regulation, and you are representing the upstream of those supply chains, right? As the exporter, you are exporting products to Europe, and the company who is buying materials or the products from you should comply with the regulation. So they will push you to account for emission and submit in an annual basis. Then what happens? That regulation has indirectly come to you. So we have to be ready. So we have to keep our house ready for this emerging regulation. Next slide. So we have some regulations. They are already adopted by European Green Deal, CSRD, CSDDD, SFDR, EU taxonomy, and also we have DPP, Digital Product Passport, under ESPR, eco-design for sustainable product regulation. And also they have separate action plan for circular economy. So like that. So they have adopted dozens of regulations. The end goal is to drive entire European Union towards climate neutral goal. So as students, you should have a good understanding about this regulation. And so that will be a push for countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Sri Lanka to account our emissions, basically corporate level accounts. Next slide. Right, so under CSRD, so they have given, so these are European standards, right? So if you go to the European Union website, you can find all of these standards. So they have given all the standard in PDF version. You can download and study, right, when you have free time. So they have a separate standard for climate action. Can you see it? So they have categorized standard in 3 categories: environment, social, and governance. And environment, what is the first standard? What is the first standard they have put under environment? Climate change. They could have put it as the option 5. They didn't. They didn't do it. They got it. Where they have put it? They have put it on the top of the standard list. So they have given high priority for the climate action. Right? The next slide. And SDGs. So you should know about these SDGs. How many SDGs we have? How many? 70. So before adopting SDGs, what did we have? Before adopting SDGs, we had a set of goals between 2000 and 2015. Millennium Development Goals. So that is, so there were 8 goals, as I remember, under the Millennium Development Goals. MDGs basically focused on poverty alleviation and social development, but SDGs are basically focusing on sustainable development. So there are 17 goals, so under which we have 1 goal wholly dedicated for climate action. That is 13th goal. Next slide. And then we have science-based target initiative. So you can go to this website if you want to. So they have listed the different companies who have submitted science-based target. So basically, it's a commitment to reduce their emission. Did you understand it? Right? So as a company, let's say that you are working for a company, you need to publicly declare, I am committed to reducing my emission. So you can use this platform, right? Science-based target initiative. And then you can confidently communicate to your stakeholders, yes, I have committed to reducing my emission, my scope 1 emission, 2 emission. You can go to this website and you can see my status. So you can give an extra confidence to what you are saying by listing under one of these public platforms, right? The next slide. Yes. So this is an extract from the website. So when you have free time, you may go to this website. You can see how many companies in Indonesia have committed to SBTi. So as I remember, there were 44 companies in Indonesia. So they have committed to reducing emission. So they are, most of companies are large scale companies, right? Turnover more than, I think 10 billion USD, something like that, as I remember. So you can find all the information. So they are publicly available, right? The next slide. Then carbon footprint of organization. So this is our core objective, right? So now we are focusing on organization level greenhouse gas emission. Next slide. Right. So here you see 3 levels of carbon accounting. What are those 3 levels? You can say loudly. Product, event, exactly. Right. So we can account emission for these 3 levels. So if you are doing an event in next month, so let's say that you have an event organized by alumni, right, your university. So then you can account your emission for that particular event, and then you can become carbon neutral. So there are standard accounting methodologies. By using those methodologies, you can account for event level emission. And also you have, let's say that you have an, let's say, entrepreneurial program, right? So through that entrepreneurial program, you are inventing a new product, right? Now you have an internal claim. You want to say that my product is carbon conscious or emitting less carbon, right? So you have that claim. So then how do you prove that claim? So then you need to account for your product level emissions. Then only you can say that yes, this product is sustainable or carbon conscious or something like that. To do that, we need to account for product level emission. So under the product level emission, we need to look at different stages. What are the stages? Raw material extraction, pre-processing, processing, distribution. So let's say that we are manufacturing a food item. Once the manufacturing is done, we have to bring it to the doorstep of the customer. So otherwise, he or she cannot consume it, right? So that is transportation. And then the customer is consuming that product. Finally, the packaging material will come as a waste. So we have to look at the entire life cycle. So have you done any module for life cycle assessment under your degree program? No. Life cycle assessment, product life cycle assessment. For forestry product? FSC, yes. Yes, under FSC you have COC, chain of custody certification. So under chain of custody certification, we are tracing across the supply chain. So if you have that traceability properly, I mean, you have that, or if you have all the documents, you can easily do this product carbon footprint assessment, because this is a game with the data. You have to play with data. If you have access to all the data, what we want, then we can easily do the accounting by using a spreadsheet like Excel. So it's a kind of a simple model. Then finally we are getting how much of emission for raw material extraction. So let's say that timber harvesting, right? How much of emission for timber harvesting, and then transportation and seasoning and making furniture, right? So like that. If we relate that to a forest related product, and let's say that the customer is using that furniture for 20 years and finally sending it into an incinerator for burning. So that is the disposal method. So let's say that furniture is a chair. So after 20 years, they are sending it to an incinerator. Maybe they are sending it to a landfill. So we have to have visibility, traceability over this entire supply chain. So if we have that traceability, visibility, then we can account for product level emission. Right. So then today's topic is not event or product organization.
The company should. The process. You said about the waste, but is it also the possibility of the waste that will possibly have regulated used by the company?
Yes. So that is an indirect responsibility. So that is coming through the supply chain. Now under digital product passport, so now you can find that, so if you can dial it in your phone, so now EU has DPP. So this is like a passport, digital product passport. So here they have a QR code, something like this, right? So when you scan this QR code, they are expecting the manufacturer to provide information, so basically the origin of the product, how they have sourced raw material. So is it from a sustainably managed forest or the natural forest? How they have sourced that material, and how they have treated all these materials, how they have manufactured that product in a facility. So what are the energy sources they have used, right? How it has been transported. Is it through sea freight, air freight, or land transport mode, maybe train or truck? And how it has been used, how it should be used by the consumer or customer, and how the waste should be disposed. So everything is embedded in this QR code. When you're scanning, you should be able to see everything regarding that product. So that is supply chain traceability. It's coming in the next 5 years. If you are an exporter, if you are working for an exporter in next 5 years, definitely DPP is something you need to look at. Right? So you don't have direct responsibility, but you can educate your customer, your consumer. So let's say that there is a plastic wrapping of a product. So you can give instruction how to dispose of plastic wrapping. Should it be sent to a landfilling? Should it be sent to an incinerator? So like that, you can give the instruction as the manufacturer. So if you are not taking that responsibility, who is taking? Right? So that is something you should consider. Right. So then our scope is going to be confined to organization in this lecture. Maybe in time to come, we can look at the other aspect as well, basically event and product. Next slide. Right. So here you can see an organization. This is a supply chain. Right. So here you can see a supply chain. The supply chain, basically we have 3 segments. Let's say that this is a factory, right? This is a factory, right? This is emission. This is your supply chain. This is upstream. This is downstream. Or inbound or outbound. So we have one more term, supply side. You must be familiar with these terms, right? Demand side. Right. So under the core process, we are accounting this emission. Right. So under the organization level, so under core process, we are accounting this emission. We call it as scope 1 plus scope 2. Because you have direct control over this operation. If you are the managing director of that company, maybe production manager, you have direct control over the combustion activities, transport activities, manufacturing activities, and how the employees should be managed. So you have direct control in this pillar. So let's say this is the boundary wall, right? Do you have a direct control over this upstream operations? So let's say that you are processing timber related products, maybe let's say paper product. So you are sourcing material from the upstream suppliers. Do you have direct control over the suppliers? We have direct indirect control. So that's why we are call this as scope 3. Scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Again, this is scope 3. So I'll explain it later. So what I wanted to mention is that in this scope, we are basically focusing on this organization, not on the product or the across all the stages in the value chain. This is your entire value chain. So in the organization level accounting, we are looking at the entire value chain, but the focus is basically on the organization, right? Next slide. Right, here you can see some common emission sources occurring in an organization. Right, so then now you know the scope 1 and 2. The organization has direct control over the operation of scope 1 and 2. For scope 3, they do not have. Right, so now let's try to understand what are the scope 1 activities, what are the scope 2 activities, what are the scope 3 activities. So under scope, let's start from the first activity, business air travels. So let's say that you are using Sidlink. You have your own company, and one of your staff members wants to go to Jakarta. So they are using Sidlink. Then scope, how can it become scope 1? You don't have your airlines. You are using another company's airline. Then scope 3. So that is part of the supply chain. Yes, you don't have direct control of the operation. Scope 3, right? Scope 3 operation. Then what is the second one? Second one is diesel generator. So let's say that this is owned and controlled by the organization. Then scope. Now when we are burning diesel in a generator, it emits greenhouse gases. So basically carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide. Is it coming under scope 3 or scope 1, 2? Generator is owned and controlled by your company. Then scope 1. Right. The next one. Sorry. Fugitive emission. So you have your own air conditioner. Your own air conditioner, you have direct control. Yeah, carrier, whatever, any Air India. So if you are using that airlines, that's going to be scope free emission, as you don't have control over the operation. The next slide. And then downstream transportation and processing of salt products. Let's say that you are manufacturing tea. You are a tea manufacturer. And let's say that you are producing green tea. And you are sending that green tea to the customer in Europe. Now, during the use phase, what does customer do? In the use phase, how do they drink a cup of tea? Let's say that you are a tea manufacturer. You are sending your product to Europe. customer in Europe. Now that Europe, the customer in Europe is to take that. How is going to make that cup of tea? No. So first they have to boil the water. Right? So if it is a hot tea, they have to boil the water, maybe 250 milligrams. So then the highest tension of that entire supply chain is coming from where? Boiling of water. To manufacture 2 grams of tea, it does not emit much emission. But to boil 250 milliliters of water, yeah. So then in a tea supply chain, more than 80% of emission coming from the use phase, not in the manufacturing phase. So let's say that you are purchasing a refrigerator from Samsung, maybe LG, right? So then highest emission is coming from the use phase of the refrigerator. So that's what we are doing under life cycle assessment. So we are looking at all the unit processes in the supply chain, and then we are calculating emission for each unit process. Then your highest emission is coming from use phase because of the electricity consumption. Right. The next slide. Right. So these are the 15th. So downstream lease asset franchises investment. So like that, you can calculate. Next slide. Right. So this is how the emission sources are related to energy and non-energy. So emission sources, you can see the standby generator, that is an energy-related emission. Fuel combustion in company-owned vehicle, energy-related, like that. You can see there are when you are burning, definitely it is emission. Both of these standards are 5 What are the principles? Consistency, transparency, accuracy, completeness. So if you are developing a greenhouse gas inventory for an organization, you need to make sure that you are compliant with these principles. If you are violating these principles, you will not be able to get the verification. Right? Once the calculation is done, you need to approach validation verification body to get the third party verification. So they will not issue that verification opinion if you are not compliant with these principles. So you can read and understand what they are saying, right? So I don't need to go one by one. But anyway, the consistency, I will take an example. Let's say that in the first year, so we talk about base year, right? So when you are doing first year initially emission calculation, you are using a simple equation, emission into A into B into P into divided by 1000. That is the equation we have used in the initial equation. What is the equation? Emission equal A into B into C divided by 1000. The next year, you are using A into B divided by 1000. Is it going to be consistent? Something like this. Consistency is very important. So if you have the methodologies you have used for the base year should be used for the subsequent year's emission calculation. So let's say that in the first year, emission equal A into B into C divided by 1000. So this is your equation in the initial year. Right, let's say 2025. 2026. Then you are calculating emission. You are calculating the emission for the same emission source, right? Then you are following A into B divided by 1000. Is it going to be consistent? Now you have this C. Maybe intentionally or unintentionally. It's not going to be consistent. Then you can do comparison. In order for us to do a meaningful comparison, there should be a consistent methodology in use. Clear? Next slide. Right. So this is the process of calculating emission. So if you are looking to maybe calculate the university level emission or maybe for research, so you have to follow this process. First, you need to define the scope. For any accounting process, we need to define the scope, and then number of students. Now you have maybe faculties. If you are calculating for the university, you need to determine what are the faculties you are going to incorporate into the account. There is going to be technology, engineering, Let's say that Ricky is the representative of that verification body. You are asking him to do a verification or an audit and to issue an opinion to the stakeholders. Then on behalf of you, he is conducting a verification or certification or something like that. So then you can confidently you can loudly say, yes, I have got this, I have done this. So this is the attestation I have received from this certification board. This is the standard I have followed. So in his opinion, he is mentioning everything. The standard you have followed, the methodologies you have followed, the tools we have used. So everything is mentioned in the verification opinion. So then there will not be any doubt. There is no any gray area in what you are doing. You are not obscuring anything. You are not hiding anything. Because it is very transparent. There is a third party involving in the claims. Right? Clear? Okay, next slide. Right. So these are some strategies the organization can follow in their emission reduction. We discussed all of these things. Next slide. Right. So this is the offsetting mechanism. We discussed all of these things. And so we are paying for somebody and we are getting carbon credit. So that is a simple way. So you can easily understand. Next slide. So under offsetting, we have two options, insetting and offsetting. Insetting means if there is a transaction within the value chain. So let's say that you are making a coffee product. Let's say that the coffee manufacturer wants to become carbon neutral. So let's say that the coffee farmer is developing a carbon reduction project, and then the coffee manufacturer getting carbon credit from that farmer. That's going to be insetting. So if you are getting carbon credit outside the value chain, so you are not getting carbon credit from the coffee value chain, you are getting carbon credit from a tea value chain. So that is called as offsetting. Next slide. This insetting is offsetting. This transaction is happening outside of the organization bound. Sorry, the value chain. So you have to have an understanding about your value chain, where it is starting, where it is ending. So if that transaction is happening, They might be different definitions, and also there are some other requirements to be considered. The minimum extent should be 0.5 hectares. The crown cover should be 10%. Should be more than 10%, and the height of the tree should be more than, as I remember, 5 meters or something. So that's how it should be defined. So you can check it with the local laws. Your forest department, you should have a forest department for the Indonesia. You can go to their website and you can see how they have defined a forest land in Indonesia. So what is the minimum extent of land required for that definition? So if the land what you are selecting is meeting those minimum requirements, you can define it as a for us. Clear? Right? Any other questions? Yo.
Sir, my name is Rizky. I received a scholarship from environmental service company in Jakarta that is involved in carbon project and carbon trading. My company collaborates with organizations such as Pernah, Gold Standard, and the others. Then my question is, geopolitical tension and wars in recent years may have commitments. That's under as this in
All right, Mr. Gayan, I'm so sorry. I think the conversation is still going really, really fun, but I think the time is already up. So I think we have to ending our conversation and the talking session right now. I'm so sorry. Yes, once again, because we have lack of time, as we know that there's another appointment too. Once again, to all the audience, please give a very, very warm applause to our speaker for today, Mr. Gayan Ranasinghe. Baik, sekali lagi terima kasih kami ucapkan kepada Bapak Gayan Ranasinghe atas pemaparan yang sangat-sangat luar biasa, insightful, membuka wawasan dan tentunya memberikan perspektif baru bagi kita semua. Nah, kita sayangnya sudah sampai di penghujung acara ya. But before that, I would like to invite Mr. Gayam Siriwardana as the Managing Director of Control Union Indonesia to receive a small gift from Faculty of Forestry. And also, I would like to invite Mr. Hermudananto or maybe or Mr. Hairi Cipta, who can give the small gift from our faculty to Mr. Gayan Siriwardana. And also we will take a picture. Okay, everyone, we can give applause to Mr. Gayan Siriwardana. Dan juga saya ingin mengimbau teman-teman bahwasanya setelah ini ditunggu upcoming event dari Control Union Indonesia, khususnya Control Union Academy, akan ada kejutan-kejutan dan ada event-event yang akan datang seperti itu nggih Bapak. Betul sekali teman-teman, tentunya sangat-sangat luar biasa sekali. Jadi ditunggu infonya dari laman Instagram CDC, juga dari sosial media lainnya. Jadi bagi teman-teman yang belum follow, belum aktifkan notification, bisa segera di follow terlebih dahulu. Nah setelah ini akan ditampilkan form evaluation atau evaluation form untuk syarat penerbitan sertifikat. Jadi teman-teman bisa scan dulu dan bisa diisi. Sambil diisi, baik, mungkin saya bisa beri waktu 2 menit untuk mengisi. Baik, teman-teman, apakah sudah selesai? Sepertinya masih bergelut dengan gadgetnya, jadi saya tunggu dulu 1 menit mungkin ya. Baik, teman-teman, sayangnya waktunya sudah selesai. Mungkin nanti bisa dilanjutkan lagi ya jika belum sempat submit seperti itu. Hadirin yang berbahagia, kita sudah sampai di penghujung acara. Namun sebelum itu saya ingin mengundang semua teman-teman untuk bisa maju ke depan, juga kepada yang terhormat segenap tim dari Control Union Indonesia untuk bisa mengabadikan momen pada siang hari ini. I would like to invite Mr. Gayan and our speaker to to stand in front of us to taking a pictures, and also for the audience, I would like to invite all of you guys to stand up in front of us untuk bisa melakukan foto bersama terlebih dahulu. Baik teman-teman, mungkin bisa segera menempatkan diri saja di depan, lalu kita mengambil foto terlebih dahulu. Mungkin ada yang di sisi kiri juga agak maju, ada yang di layer depan agak menunduk. Oke, gimana? Mungkin masih bisa maju aja Mas. Nah, di depan. Oke. Gimana? Apakah Oke, teman-teman. Gini kali ya. Oke, kita gaya formal dulu terlebih dahulu. We can taking a formal picture first. Okay, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then everyone please give your C for CDC. And also control unions. Oke, control union ada gaya atau tidak, Bapak? Yes. As Is there any request? Oh, as for sustainability, as always. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Oke, baik. Hadirin sekalian boleh kembali ke tempat duduk masing-masing. Sekali lagi, saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih yang sebanyak-banyaknya kepada segenap tim Control Unit Indonesia yang sudah berkenan untuk berbagi insight, berbagi ilmu dan juga wawasannya. Semoga kedepannya semakin banyak lagi agenda-agenda yang akan dilaksanakan bersama dengan Fakultas Kehutanan Universitas Gadjah Mada. Juga saya ingin mempersilahkan kepada hadirin sekalian, teman-teman yang sudah hadir pada siang hari ini untuk bisa kembali ke aktivitasnya masing-masing. Hadirin dipersilakan untuk meninggalkan ruangan. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.